Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. So a couple of days ago, I talked about how I'm going to start bringing this channel back to its roots. News and lore videos will always be a thing, but I want to more heavily reintegrate some of the most popular type of content from my channel, which I know a lot of you guys subscribed for. I'm talking largely about versus videos, everything from ship versus to the bigger fleet or galactic versus. Now, lots of those videos are going to be the well-edited, fully scripted and long analytical videos like I put out with the UNSC Infinity video the other day, which you guys have to watch. I'll link it up above. But sometimes I also just want to go off prompts that I see either in the comment section or online. So by the way, leave me any ideas you have below. But today we're going off a tweet that I saw from Ventress Kayarn on Twitter. Follow me there, by the way, if you haven't already. He asked, the Halo universe gets into a war with the Mass Effect universe. All aliens are allied to their own franchise and will fight for them. Who is winning? And then he later added in another tweet, oh yeah, should add this, Halo gets Forerunners and Flood, Mass Effect gets the Reapers and Collectors. So first of all, thank you for the prompt, and I will reveal how the voting went at the end of the video. But I'm actually going to split this into two comparisons. One will be the entire universe as he described, the others will exclude the Forerunner and the Flood for Halo, and the Reapers and the Collectors for Mass Effect. So I've covered some of these smaller factions or even larger aspects of this matchup in prior videos, so I'm going to try to treat this as my train of thought when I see this question. And the first thing that I think about is, even excluding Reapers and the Forerunners, which I'll talk about later, the Halo universe seems to have a fairly big advantage when it comes to power, especially when talking about the top end power. One thing I try to consider when talking about these large-scale conflicts is the fundamental aspects of the universe that play into warfare, things like faster-than-light travel, artificial intelligence, the size of the various factions. So let's talk about that, and we'll start with FTL. The Mass Effect universe, of course, has Mass Effect relays, which allow very fast travel across the galaxy. I don't think we've ever gotten the exact speeds, but for the purposes of the matchup, we'll just say that it's instant. Of course, the main drawback of traveling in this method is that you're limited to traveling through relays themselves, which are stationary. However, ships in the Mass Effect universe can also travel faster than light without mass relays through exonic drive engines on their ships, however at much slower speeds. Most ships in the Mass Effect universe can only travel at 10 or 20 light years per day. Now obviously that's still extraordinarily physics breaking fast, but when it comes to science fiction, we definitely do see a lot faster. Comparing that to Halo, however, I was actually surprised when looking at the numbers. The UNSC is actually at this speed or slower, with ships only traveling a few light year per day, which of course is why we see these multi-month long voyages. However, the Covenant, which have reverse engineered Forerunner technology, are going much faster, thousands of light years a day, which definitely gives them a significant advantage over most races in the Mass Effect universe. Even Reapers are traveling less than 100 light years a day, so that's a big tactical advantage. However, on the flip side, assuming there's some, back and forth universe invading here, the Covenant will struggle, and so will the UNSC when dealing with Mass Effect relays. Both Halo and Mass Effect have sophisticated AI. The most famous examples would be EDI from the Normandy and Cortana of the UNSC. I do think Cortana's feats are more impressive, especially when we go into the expanded universe. Human-engineered smart AI are very impressive, capable of just unbelievable acts of sheer computation. We see that when Cortana goes to the Halo ring for the first time and is processing all of that data. And I think this may partially because the UNSC doesn't have the same fear of AI-led war or revolt as the Citadel Council races. And although EDI certainly develops her own personality and full consciousness, I don't think she is anything that can really counter that. When it comes to size, this is where I think the Mass Effect universe may have somewhat of an advantage, other than ground combat, which we'll talk about later. The Mass Effect universe and the Council races are comprised of several alien species, many with tens of billions of individuals. Humanity, for example, has a population of 15 billion. which is probably more than what humanity has, at least during the Human Covenant War in Halo, and humanity makes up a big part of the Halo universe's population. Of course, the Covenant are more populous, and to be fair, humanity also was too before the war, but then they lose a lot in the way of technology, so we'll go with mid-war. But I think the more important number really comes down to ships. How many ships does each faction have? And again, I give this advantage to the Mass Effect universe. There are just more factions with more individuals, with many of them having time to build up armadas. That doesn't mean these fleets are more powerful, and we'll come back to that, but looking at the Covenant, they probably had a few thousand ships. The UNSC having relatively minor amounts in comparison, with, I think, the Mass Effect universe and the Citadel Council races just having more. We know that the Turian Navy alone had 32 fleets and over 40 dreadnoughts. But to be honest, this is really difficult speculation, and in my mind, it's not really super important, because the Covenant alone should definitely be able to wipe the Citadel races. The technology available to the Covenant is just next level, which does make sense because it's largely built off recovered and stolen Forerunner assets. Although, of course, size doesn't mean everything. The largest dreadnought in the Mass Effect universe is several kilometers. The largest dreadnought used by the Covenant was 28. Covenant flagships, however, very frequently would hit the multi-kilometer long mark, with even a Covenant cruiser probably comparable in size to a dreadnought of the Mass Effect universe. But of course, size wouldn't mean everything, as I mentioned, if there was some technological difference. Honestly, the technology of Citadel Council races seems fairly comparable to that used by the UNSC. Various fans online have calculated the yields of UNSC cannon shots and Alliance dreadnought shots. I don't necessarily think that's important. They do use similar technology, and I'll just say the yield is comparable, with many describing Mass Effect power as just generally lower due to its closer adherence to, I guess, hard sci-fi conventions. Mass Effect ships do have shields, but they protect only against projectile weapons, so they're going to run into largely the same issues that the UNSC did, where the Covenant just absolutely stomped them in pretty much every major space battle. So while the Citadel Council races may have 100 or 200 dreadnoughts and thousands of other ships, the problem they'll run into is that though the Covenant maybe doesn't have 100 of their largest ships, they've got 1,000 cruisers each one, which can probably handle 2 or 3 dreadnoughts and many smaller ships. And again, the energy shielding, which does of course protect against projectiles, and the long-range plasma weaponry allows the Covenant to basically one-shot anything without an energy shield while sustaining a decent amount of fire. And then we have the slip space technology, which offers them an advantage, and maybe the AI tech of humanity giving another slight advantage, and I think Halo takes this in space very easily. And although a lot of people are probably going to say, well, elites are awesome and Spartans are awesome, this should also be a stomp on the ground, I'm actually not so sure. We see that ground-based technology in Mass Effect is very advanced, from bionics giving people essentially psychic power to basically miniaturized versions of their spaceship shields and cannons. I don't know, you've got a really deadly combination here, and you've got this sort of technology widespread across council races, so this is where the sheer numbers come into play. Unfortunately, even if you can win ground battles, as the UNSC found out the hard way, if the Covenant and the UNSC can dominate in space, I don't think it really matters. The Covenant are more than capable of glassing worlds, the UNSC have access to nuclear weapons, and I just think that it's going to be too much for the Mass Effect universe to come back from, and that's that. Now, if we bring in the more advanced races like the Reapers and the Forerunners, then this is a very easy stomp for the Halo universe. Mass Effect has nothing approaching the level of technological supremacy we saw with the Forerunners, who could create their own shield worlds, fundamentally alter the nature of space-time, and just produce things at just an almost unimaginable capacity. Entire planets, as I mentioned, shield worlds, superstructures, some of them using conventional technology, others going into space-time bubbles, and more. And then, I mean, if you're taking the size of the Forerunner Navy, you've got billions of ships being led by by godlike AI. The Reapers were significantly more powerful than the Citadel Council races, but I'm talking maybe like 2 or 3 times more powerful, enough that the Citadel Council races at least felt like they had a chance. The Forerunners, however, were several orders of magnitude more powerful than humanity and the Covenant. So all in all, I give both rounds to the Halo universe. I think in round 1, without the big boys playing, they probably win, I don't know, 7.5 times out of 10. In round 2, with the big boys involved, I give them a 10 out of 10 win. And if you care and you're interested in Twitter results, I'll also post that on the screen right now. You can see that Halo on Twitter also took the day. That's just my opinion, though. Let me know what you guys think down below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know that as well. Until next time, though, guys, have a good one, be safe, and may the Force be with you.